So I'm audible now. Yay. Okay. So then I'm just gonna dig on out my notes and start, I think. Okay. So I guess I shall just start. Is that right? Now that I'm finally audible. Okay, I'll just talk a little bit and yeah. So I don't know if you guys know me or how you guys found this webinar, but I am Julia. I am the founder of Canine India, which is India's first species appropriate pet food. I founded that in 2018, and since then have been doing very little but taking care of streeties, my own dogs, consultations, and of course, making the actual food for all the dogs and cats out there. I'm a lawyer by profession, or lawyer and journalist, but I completely switched to taking care of puppies, and I like to think that I have a little bit of a scientific approach to dog food or cat food, and then also I hope that I can shed some light on stuff today, since I do have the scientific part, but then I also have the daily experience from my own street dogs. I don't know if everybody here is Indian. We have a lot of street dogs in India where I live. And so I do take care of those guys a lot, and there's a lot of drama and a lot of unique cases. So I feel like the scientific part, the streeties, and then the consultations with a lot of pet dogs hopefully give me a full picture of things. So today I was thinking we should go back to the basics. Might not sound super interesting, but it actually is. Talking about what are nutrients. Let's not talk about diet charts. Let's not talk about like all the evolved stuff. Let's go back to the basics. Just speak about what are nutrients, because everything we do or we're trying to do for our dogs and cats is based on nutrient supply. So if we got the nutrient supply figured out, if we got the basics figured out, only then we'll be able to actually act on what we know about our pets. So let's get into it. Nutrition, nutrients, like we always see that on, advertisements. We see it used everywhere. Superfoods, nutrients for puppies, nutrients for big dogs, nutrients for any specific situation, and just the nutrient part. I am not sure is clear to all of us what is a nutrient? What does full nutrition mean? If I asked you, what does full nutrition mean for your dog? What does full nutrition mean for you? Would you be able to answer? And I think it's quite important that we know how to answer that questions for our pets, because that is ultimately what we build the diet on. We have to understand also how nutrients actually work together to be able to supply them. If I may give one example, there's a lot of nutritionists will advise you with what I call half knowledge. So say your pet has a calcium deficiency. It's not very common, but let's just say your pet does not eat any bones, does not eat anything calcium containing. So you now realized, okay, my pet is calcium deficient. Many nutritionists will tell you, oh, that's no issue. Just add some eggshells. Eggshells are pure calcium. So you'll be just fine. Just add eggshells. You don't need to feed bones. You're just good. Now, if you do that, your pet is not going to absorb calcium, even though, true, eggshells are 100% calcium, but nutrients work in a way that they need to be absorbed and they need to bind to other things to be useful for the body. So if you just feed calcium, then your pet is not going to get that calcium. What you need to do is basically feed calcium and phosphorus. Phosphorus is kind of like the vehicle that the calcium needs to be absorbed. So the perfect ratio 2:1 of calcium to phosphorus is what bones carry. Eggshells do not. So eggshells, yes, calcium, but calcium supply for the dog, no. The way that you can still make use of the eggshells is by just feeding the whole egg. It's a whole protein, like it's a really good whole food. You feed the whole egg, the yolk has higher amounts of phosphorus, and then the calcium from the shell will also be absorbable. The only thing I'm mentioning this here is to show you why I think it's quite crucial to speak about nutrients and about how they work and what they are, because only then you'll be able to take advice and you'll be able to take your own learnings from it. So yeah, let's do it. What is a nutrient? Nutrients are defined as a substance that is used by an organism to survive, grow, and reproduce. So basically to live and to keep living. Nutrients are the fuel for the whole body. Nutrients are incorporated into the metabolization of process of cells, and then nutrients are also used by cells to build structures. So in easy words, nutrients can be the fuel or they can be the outcome of a process, or both. So to use an example which makes it a little bit easier, I think, to understand, if we stick to calcium, calcium is a mineral and that plays an important role in transmitting messages through the nervous system. So that's one function in the cell it has. But then also calcium is used to build hair, to build nails, claws, all kinds of structures that are not proper functioning cells, because hair and fur and teeth are not cells like our tissue cells and similar. So nutrients are used as fuel and nutrients are used as building blocks. Those are the two jobs, which means they basically do everything in the body. Different types of organisms, let's say a human, a horse, and a cat, we all have essential nutrients. Essential nutrients meaning the nutrients that we need to consume through food that we cannot make ourselves in our body. Another example, vitamin C, that is a vitamin that is an important antioxidant. It eliminates free radicals and it can help reduce inflammation and cognitive aging. For humans, it is essential. As humans, we cannot make vitamin C in our bodies, no matter what we eat, no matter how many superfoods we eat. Dogs, on the other hand, they can actually synthesize, which means making, vitamin C in their liver if they get the right food sources, so that they have the components to build the vitamin C. So it's not a bad idea to feed vitamin C rich foods, but your dog can also make the vitamin C themselves. So essential nutrients is just always meaning the nutrients that we need to eat with food, and other nutrients are also there. So vitamin C would be an essential nutrient for me, but not my dog, whereas taurine, for example, is an essential nutrient for cats, not for dogs. So there's a lot of differences, not just between omnivores and herbivores and carnivores. There's lots of differences between each and every single species, and then also between each and every single body, every soul, everybody is different. So let's get back to the nutrient definitions. There's two main categories of nutrients. One is macronutrients, and then there's micronutrients. Macronutrients, easy, are basically the structural components of food. That's protein, carbs, and fat. These three are macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fat. Each of these is digested differently, but all of them have in common that they are used to supply energy and nutrition to the whole body. Micronutrients, on the other hand, are nutrients that the body gets from digesting macronutrients. Vitamins would be micronutrients, minerals are, and amino acids are. But we'll get into the details just a little bit later. So just to make this clear, if you imagine any kind of food, like say it's a piece of meat, it's a processed treat, it's some home cooked rice, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you have on the plate, it will be macronutrients in different balances: proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. Whether it's rice, whether it's fish, whether it's, denta sticks, it doesn't matter. It'll always be some sort of macronutrients. Now, of course, fresh meat will have a very high amount of protein and a very low amount of carb. And then depending on the cut, there'll be more or less fat. If you have grains, for example, a portion of cooked white rice, then you won't have a lot of protein, you'll have a lot of carb. It depends on what you put on your plate. Then you know what macronutrients they have, but the basic macronutrients are always the same: protein, carbs, and fat. Micronutrients get derived from the macronutrients if possible. Of course, fresh food will have more vitamins and a lot of the heat-sensitive nutrients. Vitamins, enzymes, protein even denaturalizes, changes when it's cooked. So processed pet food or cooked meals will always have a different nutritional profile than raw or carefully dried food. So so just make sure that if you know that a certain food has certain vitamins or certain properties, make sure that the food still has them in the way that you serve it. And also don't trust all the labels that say complete nutrition and omega-3 and whatnot. But we'll get to the part how to judge and how to get stuff in your bowl a little bit later. Now we'll still have to stick to the basics. So let's get into the macronutrients. Let's understand them. Protein. Another word that people throw around all the time: protein, protein. What is protein? Protein is used in the body for basically everything. Protein plays a role in every part of your dog's body or in your own body as well. Protein provides energy that's used for building and maintaining muscle mass, tissue, cartilage. It supports all the processes in the body, and proteins also make up every single enzyme. Enzymes are little workers that help in bunches of processes as well, for example, digestive enzymes or in hormone production. So basically, if you don't have good quality protein, then all the processes will lack because they will not have the right fuel. So when protein is digested, it comes apart into amino acids. This sounds a little bit scientific and all, but it's not that hard. Macronutrients, protein, carb, fat. Protein is made of amino acids. That's basically where we're at right now. So these amino acids are the most important micronutrients in your dog's diet. Amino acids are used to build new protein, to build hormone, to build muscles, cells. Amino acids are basically like building blocks that you can build anything with after you have taken them from the protein. If it's good ones, you can build anything else with them. It's like taking a really good car apart and then using the engine for something else, or taking the fuel and putting it in some other place, or you have a really crappy old car and you take it apart. The quality of the protein is just important because the building blocks of the protein are what your dog uses. Um, Dogs can also manufacture certain amino acids in their body. Like we said, some are not essential, but there are 10 essential amino acids that our dogs need. And these must be obtained through diet. And for the entire time today, I will focus mostly on the essential nutrients because those are the ones that typically lack or that have some some issues that can typically be figured out quite easily. So, animal and certain insect protein is complete, meaning all these 10 amino acids that dogs can't make themselves are in it. So basically, a piece of meat will have these 10 amino acids. Certain insects, like you can get from Canada and India, we have insect pet food for people who are not too into meat, or who have issues handling it at home. Insects are not meat, but they do have this unique thing that they can supply all the amino acids that dogs need, the 10 ones. I am going to spare you from telling you all the 10 amino acids. You can Google them. I think it's not going to help you to hear me say them in some German English accent right now. But yeah, it's more important to understand them than to know their names, I guess, just like with the dogs, right? So yeah, amino acids are like chains. They need to kind of always work together, like building blocks, like construction. Like the body is a well-oiled factory working with so many processes and so many uses for each thing that comes in can be used in so many ways if it's a good thing, you know? So it's hard to say like one amino acid is used only for this. Amino acids are used for everything and just all kinds of combinations. But when one of the essential ones is missing, that's when the chain reaction, has an issue. It's like a line of dancers, and if like 10 are doing beautifully and one dancer is just not there or is sick and just can't move, the whole thing will just fall apart in a way. That's, how well-oiled machines work, and the body is a well-oiled machine in the best case. All right, next one of the macronutrients are carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are a big deal. And it's also one of those words that people throw around, but carbs are not carbs. There is a plentitude of different kinds of carbs. There's so many different ways you can approach and see them. I'm just going to try to give you an idea of the different kinds of carbs and what they do, why we feed them or not feed them. So one thing I can tell you right away, if you've ever heard me or seen me, you'll know I will tell you right away, white rice and chapati and wheat and grains and all that are not the carbs our dogs need, and actually they are harmful. But let me explain. Let me not just put that out there. So starting, carbs. Again, one of the macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. Protein protein comes apart into amino acids, is used like a building tool, building kit, whatever. Now we're at carbohydrates, which are also quite complex. So simple carbohydrates are essentially sugars. They are found in many highly refined grains and white rice and processed foods and kibble, and they're basically just a short-term energy source. So what they will do is, or what they tend to do is elevate blood sugar levels and then also make them drop quite quickly. Just like when we're very hungry and we have like something like chocolate or something that doesn't fill us for a long time, it'll just, spike blood sugar and then leave you feeling hangry and kind of irritated a little bit later. Same thing basically for simple carbs for dogs. Yeah. Then we have complex carbohydrates. Starches, for example. These are made out of simple sugars. For example, rice or wheat. Those are just chains of sugars, basically, chains of simple carbohydrates. Then the next thing, which many people might not know as a carb, and that's fiber. Fiber is not essential for dogs. It's beneficial though. Fiber is another complex carbohydrate. Fiber is usually not fully digested, and fiber can be beneficial and added to the diet for digestive health, as well as undigested fiber helps bulking up the stool and expressing anal glands, as well as just helping the digestion in several ways. I'll speak about that right now because there's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So again, carbohydrates are not that easy. They're not just rice. So if you did research and you see a lot of differing opinions about carbohydrates, then it's because it's speaking about different things, most likely. Pumpkin is a great source of fiber because it's got soluble fiber, which attracts water, slows digestion, and contributes to a certain feeling of fullness, which is why people often use overcooked rice for diarrhea in dogs, but that's not necessary. Berries also contain this soluble fiber, and that's a much easier way to do it because you're going around all those starches and all those sugars that rice would supply. Insoluble fiber adds bulk and it speeds movement through the digestive system. Fur, for example, feathers, raw vegetables, coconut husks, stuff like that, that's insoluble fiber. Pumpkin actually is a source of both soluble and insoluble fiber. So whether your pup has constipation or diarrhea, a pumpkin is always a good idea to add to the bowl, especially when there's tummy issues. I mean, acute tummy issues, of course not if there's a actual disease or some gastro issues, then a pumpkin is not going to solve it. But if your pet has just a little bit of digestive upset, make some pumpkin mash, add some bone broth, and most likely it's going to be just fine. Apart from that, consistency in the diet is extremely important, as we spoke about those blood sugar spikes. That happens when food isn't nourishing enough, when it's just short-term filling. So when that happens, when you feed too much stuff that just is metabolized really quickly, like starches, like white rice, like kibble, bread, stuff like that, then the body will release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to produce and metabolize the blood sugar that it needs to deal with these starches. That again leads to this whole up and down in the blood sugar. It's not good. It will leave the dog feeling irritated, hungry, and just not balanced, and especially not nourished. So another way to approach foods, whether you judge them by knowing how much carbs there are, what kind of carbs there are, you can also look at the glycemic index. Excuse me. The glycemic index kind of gives you an idea as well of how fast the body can turn the food into sugar, and that gives you an idea of how long it will keep the puppy filled. High glycemic foods are the ones that convert quicker, like sugar, carbs, processed food, bread, pasta, all these things. And low glycemic foods, of course, are easier and better to digest and give more long-lasting energy. And that's, of course, mostly animal protein, but there's also other things. It's not just animal protein, but it's definitely not bread, rice, or kibble. To make this point very clear, excessive sugars, excessive starches, excessive carbs, it can lead to all kinds of health issues, and the vet might not be able to bring it back to the starch in the diet, and then you'll get medication for an issue, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen that's not great if you're missing a balance. So give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll look at the questions just a little bit later. Maybe I'll answer a couple of things, hopefully also along the way. But bottom line, limit the grains and starches, processed foods, all of that. Yeah. I mean, an easy way to supply some digestive enzymes is always raw fruit juice. Like papaya has papain, the pineapple has bromelain. There's there's a bunch of different fruit that if you feed them raw, not heated, raw, but they have to be mashed or shredded, then they can supply some digestive enzymes which might help the pancreas. But then again, the pancreas is in a whole system. The pancreas needs anti-inflammation. The pancreas needs the renal system to work well, the glands to work well, the nervous system, because the pancreas can communicate to the brain if everything isn't quite well. So on one hand, sorry to make this interruption here, on one hand, it's difficult to answer to what to do for pancreas, but on the other hand, it's easy to just feed better and see issues go away because everything is so interlinked in the body. But please do remind me if there's follow-up questions. I'm happy to go back to them after my little talky talk. Yeah, again, yeah, prebiotics and probiotics, of course, are good, but you have to be careful with what probiotics you feed because not all survive in the dog's stomach because it's quite acidic and hostile. But what you can do also for the pancreas is just feed some prebiotics, like have, depending on your dog's size, like a little bit of raw garlic, a little bit of banana, spinach. These are all prebiotics that feed the right bacteria in your dog's stomach. Because you have to also make sure that when you're feeding your dog, you don't want to feed yeast, you don't want to feed bad bacteria. You want to feed the organisms that keep your dog thriving, that ferment the stuff in the stomach, that keep things going. So you have to make sure the good bacteria, they like healthy food. They like, as mentioned, prebiotic foods, raw honey, raw fruit juices, garlic, all these things. If you feed rice and starches, then the bad bacteria will eat the sugars, will eat the food. The good bacteria will starve, the bad bacteria have a party. So it's all about balance and a little bit of a general approach. Yeah, so next macronutrient is fat. And for the pancreas, this might be a very difficult topic because with the pancreas, of course, you have to go super lean, but still, fats are essential to a healthy diet. It's just about quantity, but you need fat in a diet. You cannot feed a pet without any fat. That doesn't make any sense. Of course, there's many issues stemming from excess fat or excess carbs in the diet, like pancreatitis or joint issues, diabetes, all these things. But let's look at what kind of fats there are. Yeah, rice and wheat is usually given to our dogs, that's right. But also, that's why every fourth dog had arthritis. That's why diabetes, that's why all cancer, all these issues, thyroid issues, are happening in 8 out of 10 dogs nowadays, when in the 1940s, before pet food and all these starches were introduced into a dog's diet, that's when dogs didn't have diabetes, dogs didn't have cancer, dogs didn't have the diseases that us humans have. But now that we feed the dogs the way that we feed us, they have the same issues, they have the same diseases. And it doesn't make it right just because everybody's doing it. It's not a good thing. It's, if you look at the body, if you look at the digestion, it's really harmful. That's why I'm fighting so hard to try to at least get additions to rice, at least get balances. If you only have rice, dogs can't digest it. They will only feed bad bacteria. It'll clog up the renal system. It'll make the stomach lining leaky. There's a lot of things that take a lot of time, but they will happen. And they're bad. And you can make it easier for your dogs by just adding like very small amounts of certain things. That's why I'm trying to go back to the basics so that we all agree on the basics, so that there's no question like, but I've been doing this and it works, but I've seen this work or something. If you just look at the basics, at how digestion works, how do nutrients get absorbed, if you look at that, then you don't have to take it from me that I tell you no, rice not allowed. But if you see like this whole structure, then you can make your choices and see, okay, my dog's coat is always itchy, maybe I reduce the rice, and then maybe you'll see, oh, my dog is not itchy anymore. So I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to explain to you what happens in the body so that you can make the right decisions for your dog. Of course, there's also dogs who are fine on rice. There's dogs that, there's people who only eat raw meat. There's people who eat this or that. I'm just speaking about the scientific and from experience, the main basics of dog nutrition, how you can keep them healthy and thriving without going to the vet. I haven't been to the vet with my pets and ever. I've only spayed and neutered them, and that's it. Other people I consult on a daily basis, they go to the vet once, twice a month. It's up to everybody what they do with the information. I'm just saying it would be good to feed less, right? But again, let's go to the fats again. And also, it's all about balance, right? Not just with rice, with fat, with everything. It's always about balance. It's always about being happy and having certain components of everything. All right, so let's look at the essential fats. There's omega-3 and there's omega-6 essential fatty acids. Omega-9 is also there, but it's not essential and it doesn't really play an important role. So I'm just gonna skip the omega-9 because there's no point to talking about it. Whereas omega-3 and omega-6 both are important. Omega-3 gets a lot more talk, but let's figure these out real quick. We'll also start with the omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s are incredibly important for skin, joints, anti-inflammation, for the cognitive system. Omega-3 is just really, really important, just as basically every part of nutrition. So there's EPA and DHA, which are active forms of omega-3 fatty acids. And they are found mainly in fish and shellfish. There's other sources as well, but most important ones are fish and shellfish for omega-3 active, which is EPA and DHA. There's also another omega-3 fatty acid, and this is important, I think, because I see a lot of people giving their dogs flaxseed oil for omega-3, for example, or olive oil or hemp oil. That's fine and not bad, but the plant-based omega-3s are typically alpha-linoleic acid. This is ALA. What we want is EPA and DHA. Plants typically have ALA. ALA is also essential, but your dog's body cannot convert all the ALA to EPA and DHA. It can use about 5 to 15% of the ALA and convert it to the active forms of omega-3, which is EPA and DHA. But there's a big chunk of the ALA that cannot be converted. Cats cannot convert anything. Dogs can convert between like around 15%. But ALA is not bad. It's still good to feed some, hemp seed oil or whatever you have, but it is not going to replace the fish or the proper omega-3, DHA, and EPA and DHA in the diet. That's very important. Just like with the eggshells, you can always make additions, but you have to be sure that you're actually getting the right output as well. So just adding some sort of fresh fish, powdered fish, anything that you can get that's actually fresh, where you know where it's from, where you have an idea and it's actual fish, feed it. And if you can make fish broth at home or cook fish, whatever it is, fish is really, really a major benefit to the diet if you're not feeding it yet. Yeah, so that's for the omega-3s. We have the important EPA and DHA active ones in fish and shellfish. We have ALA that can be converted partially. Fish, always go for sweetwater or river fish because the way that the composure of the water when it's sweetwater is less minerally, so there's less mercury in the fish. So sweetwater and river fish, and then ocean fish, just go for the locally caught ones. I mean, I don't know where you are in India, but for us in Chennai, it's very easy to get we have our own boat, of course, but like, small ocean fish. Please don't get the ones from the big ships with those huge nets that they're dragging and killing everything. Try to go for, like, if you can, local fishermen, early morning, then you don't have an issue with the cold storage also. Just small ocean fish, because the smaller they are, the less crab they ate, and the less time they were subject to the bad stuff that humans put in the oceans, basically. So small ocean fish, river, lake fish, mackerels, anchovies, sardines, of course. Also try around what fits your dog. Again, if your dog has pancreatitis, then it's not good to go for the very oily fish like sardines. Then maybe anchovy would be better. It's a very individual game. Just look at the components. But yeah, small fish and sweetwater fish. Yeah, so the omega-6 fatty acids we're getting to now. Omega-6 is much more easily available. It's also found in many plant sources, and it is also important. Omega-6 are important. They sometimes get a bad rep because they are pro-inflammatory, but inflammation is a hugely important process in the body. So I have a little cut here on my thumb. It's a little bit red. That's inflammation. If I didn't have any inflammation, I'd just be bleeding. Meaning, whenever the body has an issue, inflammation is basically the emergency service coming and fixing stuff. So we do want inflammatory nutrients. We just want them to be in balance with anti-inflammation and anti-inflammatory nutrients, so that neither takes the upper hand. It's always got to be balanced. So for omega-6 fatty acids, we do want them. We want them balanced. We want inflammatory response. We just want it when it's needed. And when these omega-6 and 3 are balanced, they also make, they keep each other in check. So there will be no excessive inflammation if you feed enough omega-3, and vice versa. So that's all it is about, balance. And then fatty acids can really have a vital part in your dog's health. And since each and every single nutrient source, every source of omegas and other nutrients has their own benefits and uniquenesses, it's always good to switch and change and mix and match, not always go for anchovy, not always go for the same fish broth, not just mix and match. If you can get anchovy today, maybe you can get some river fish tomorrow, maybe you can get some cutler, maybe you're preparing food for your own family and you get a whole fish and you have the cartilage in the head you not eat, then you can make broth out of that. Just try to see food as ingredients and see it as what it is and make something out of it. It's not like your dog has to eat A, B, and C every single day in the same quantities. It's more fun and much more healthy to put a little bit more variety in there. And also it allows you to figure out what your actual dog wants and needs and likes. It's, certain individuals have certain needs that might not fit the school book explanation, but it might just be like that, I don't like seafood, but I like fish. Maybe, your dog has their little perks and things that you need to know. And also with the changing weather, changing surrounding, the diet can also change. If it gets hotter outside, then maybe you need more fish and maybe less chicken, and just try to adapt the diet to the actual situation. But let's get back to the micronutrients now. We are getting into the vitamins. Just short, vitamins are basically responsible for everything as well. They have their enzymatic cofactors, their metabolic regulators, their antioxidants. There are all kinds of things. There's a multitude of different vitamins. They support every single process in the body, from nervous function to the general immune response, renal function, all of it. Certain vitamins also have antioxidant effects. So vitamins are great. Most of them are water soluble, meaning they dissolve in water. A couple of them, like vitamin A, K, E, and D, they are fat soluble, so they need fat, just like oil, they don't dissolve in water. These vitamins A, D, E, and K, they need fat to be absorbed, but they typically come in fatter meats as well. And you only need very little of them because nature is smart like that. Then minerals are another super important micronutrient. Minerals we all know, like zinc and copper and magnesium and calcium and potassium and all these very important little structures. Minerals are the building blocks of, for example, bones, teeth, fur, nails, claws, all kinds of things. But minerals also, just like protein, act like a messenger in the nervous system. So minerals are also responsible for blood, for the oxygen transport in the blood and other things. So basically you can see macronutrients quality is really important for what micronutrients you get out of there. And the better the micronutrients are, the less you need of them, basically. Because if you just have a dense serving of really good protein, then you can also add some rice and you can give your dog like a cookie or something. You just need to make sure the nutrient needs are met, and then you can play around. So let's look at how to get these actual nutrients that we want into the bowl. Firstly, synthetic nutrients I have a huge issue with. They might seem like a super convenient and safe option, but they're not. Whole food nutrients are much better. There's a lot to say about this. I wrote blogs on that as well. Basically, synthetic nutrients are never the same as real nutrients in food. So synthetic nutrients, because they're man-made, they're slightly different, and they have to be dosaged much higher because they typically, the synthetic nutrients just depict a part of a nutrient. You'll never get vitamin C like as a whole structure because human science has not fully understood all these nutrients. So we cannot copy them. So when you have kibble or processed food or a capsule that says glucosamine and that's synthetic, then it'll be extremely highly dosed because they're trying to make that little bit that they got there just be absorbed. So you need very little natural food nutrients as opposed to synthetic nutrients, which are not really available and which in the process also will clog the renal system because there's lots of byproducts. All of that, it's much easier. Look at that. Look, for example, if you have a dog with joint issues and you need glucosamine, because every single joint supplement will have glucosamine, chondroitin, maybe calcium, and omega-3 maybe. Same for the skin and coat ones. They probably have omega-3 and some glucosamine or something. One chicken foot has 1.5 times the daily glucosamine need of a 20 kg dog. If you have a chunk of trachea, like buffalo or beef trachea, that has about 1,400 milligrams of glucosamine, which is about 1.5 times the need of a 20 kg dog a week. So you don't need any capsules. You just sometimes need to get your hands a little bit dirty. Or you need to order from us, of course. So fresh nutrition really is the way. Let me joint health. Yeah, so chicken feed, green lip mussels. Yeah, chicken feed are good, but chicken feed, if your dog has severe joint issues, are not that great because there's still a inflammatory protein. Like we spoke, chicken has more omega-6 and 9, so chicken is rather inflammatory. If your dog already has joint issues, then I would rather go for cooling proteins, say duck, rabbit, or fish. Now, what you're looking for in the chicken foot is the glucosamine, the cartilage, a little bit of skin, having some collagen, hyaluronic acid. Those are the things you're looking for in the chicken foot, which is why people say, oh, it's good for joints. But much better would be a little piece of fish cartilage that's got the cooling effect, that's got omega-3, no omega-6, it's got all the cartilage, it's got all the collagen, hyaluronic acid, everything. So chicken foot, yes, is nice. Fish cartilage would be much better. Duck feet would be great. Rabbit feet would be great. Anything, any joints, any feet. Shrimp is good. I don't know if you are in India, you can always get some of the dried stuff from Canine India in rabbit or duck or whatever. Fish. But if she has fish and shrimps and stuff, that's actually a nice balance there. I would just try to get some of the bony bits of the fish in, or if your dog eats home cooked and not raw, then make some broth and feed the broth or the stock. Because especially with fish cartilage, it sounds a little bit gross, but if you have like a nice fresh fish cartilage and you break the spine, you can literally see the spinal fluid come out in between. Like that's, if you have these like super expensive capsules of like skincare in the US where you pay like whatever how much for one capsule, I feel like the fish cartilage, if you open that, that's like nutritional gold right there in the middle, because that's what your dog's joints need. So cartilage soup is what I would say. Fish head soup, stuff like that. That would be good. Yeah, so we established macronutrients, protein, fat, carbs, depending on their quality, get taken apart, or always get taken apart in the body into micronutrients like amino acids, minerals, vitamins, and then they get used. The last thing that I'd like to address about nutrients, there's also anti-nutrients. Now, anti-nutrients are components that inhibit the use or the proper absorption of nutrients. Anti-nutrients are natural compounds, and they are typically in the seeds of plants, in the seeds or, sorry, because the plants have those built-in kind of nutrient inhibitors to keep other animals from eating their seeds. So it's kind of a self-protective thing. Since plants can't run away, they just make themselves anti-nutritious. The issue with this is not like if your dog had some, whatever, a whole apple, then that's not going to be an issue. The issue here is if you feed your dog with a lot of lentil, a lot of soy, a lot of any legumes, like any beans or stuff like that, that can become quite that can become difficult, because there is different inhibitors in especially legumes and soy. So chickpeas, lentils, beans, soy, anything like that is really not a good constant in the diet, because it keeps other nutrients from being able to get into the body. I'll answer to that in 1 second. Yeah, so skin and coat, same thing. So look, when you feed your dog, the most important thing to do is keep the gut healthy, because when the gut is inflamed, say from too much rice, kibble, wheat, whatever, say you've only been feeding rice and kibble all the time, then the stomach lining will get inflamed. When the stomach lining gets inflamed, that means the little cells go, they come from this to a little bit inflamed. So it gets leaky. Now, the insides of the stomach can diffuse out into the bloodstream through this leaky gut lining. When that happens, there's like stuff in the bloodstream that's not supposed to be there, food particles, toxins, whatever. Now, if that's in the bloodstream, then the renal system will quickly have an issue, because the renal system is supposed to filter everything, right? But if you keep feeding kibble and rice and the stomach lining keeps getting worse and stuff keeps getting into the bloodstream, then the renal system will just be like, I can't do this anymore, it's too much. Then the vet will tell you, oh, you have renal issue, you need to lower protein. Not true. That's going to kill it. That's going to give it the rest. What you have to do is find the right nutrients that are excessive in your dog's bloodstream. Say there's too much calcium in the bloodstream, then you have to feed phosphorus so that it can bind, clean the bloodstream, and get the dog healthy again. If you lower the protein intake, the kidneys and liver will never get back to normal, because they'll just go dormant. Now, say you haven't gone to the vet. The renal system is not doing well. The bloodstream is still contaminated. Now the skin, as the biggest organ, will try to help the other organs. The skin will start trying to push out toxins. Now you have rashes, itches, and heat boils because of a leaky gut. Now your vet will give you antibiotics and steroids, NSAID, Apoquel, all that stuff, because they want your dog to stop itching. And you will give them the steroids and your dog will stop itching and you'll be super happy. And then you stop the steroids and then everything starts up from start and you have to get a higher dosage of steroids. Instead of all of that, you can just go back and fix the gut lining. Feed a little bit of anti-inflammatory food, feed a little bit of broth, make sure the gut lining patches up again. Then all of the other stuff will go away. The renal issues, the skin issues, whatever, UTI, whatever names you can find for it, it will go away. Then raw or lightly cooked, it depends on your dog. I feed all my dogs raw. I feed all my streeties raw. Our shelter, I feed raw and dehydrated. For my dogs, to be honest, I give them, if I see any kind of meat that's been stored in the warehouse for more than 10 days, we don't use it anymore. That's what I use for my dogs because I know they're extremely healthy, and for a healthy dog, there's very little foods that can, or natural foods that can harm them, because a healthy dog has such a well-sealed stomach lining that everything inside will be taken care of. You know, dogs sniff poop, they lick their own bums, like they can handle bacteria. So if your dog is absolutely healthy, then feed it raw. If not, then get there with light cooking. If you have a household where it's going to be an issue that you feed raw meat, then also you don't have to do it. It's okay. You can keep a healthy dog on a home cooked diet. Maybe for bones, that's always an issue I see. For bones, it would be great to keep the stomach fit enough to chew a raw bone, just for the bone content, for the joy, for all of that. Pre and probiotics. Have read about goodness. Yeah. Okay, pre and probiotics is simple. Prebiotics are food for the probiotics. Probiotics are nothing but bacteria, and prebiotics are just the food for the bacteria. Prebiotics, simple, like it sounds scientific. It's not. It's just some banana, some garlic, stuff like that, melon, bacteria like that. And probiotics are just the good bacteria. Like there's so many millions of strains, like there's the common ones, the BFD and whatnot. There's so many different bacteria, but the good ones feed on the good food, and that's as mentioned. But you can also just Google prebiotics; it'll be quite easy. Then for deworming, yeah, deworming and anti-tick both. It's basically just poison for the nervous system, and that's what you give to your dog. And then you just hope that the dose is so low that it will only affect the worms or only affect the ticks. Maybe there are no worms or ticks, but still there's the poison, and they get it. So, I mean, Bravecto in the US has several class action lawsuits because especially small dogs and cats died of renal failure, like liver failure, shortly after getting the anti-tick medication, because clearly it's just nerve poison. If you have those collars, it's also just slowly gives poison into your dog's skin. It's not a good. It's a very, very drastic thing to do deworming and anti-tick treatments. It's done so easily, but it is a big, big, big deal actually. And you don't have to do it. I mean, if your dog never has worms, then why do you have to give medication every other month? Pumpkin seeds have an enzyme that paralyzes worms naturally. There's other ways. You don't. I mean, I'm not gonna say like never go and do deworming or anti-tick, but I think you should always look for every single other way before you go and do something like that. Meal fillers. Pumpkin is good. Sweet potato. Potato is, again, quite starchy. I would go for any kind of vegetable mash. There's lots of stuff like bovine colostrum or goat milk, raw milk, kefir, fermented vegetables, everything you can do. Can always check on Canine India. We have food toppers, we have meal toppers, and like all kinds of different things. Dairy is not great for dogs, because you ask about yogurt. Dairy is not great, but if your dog is fine with it, then there's no issue. It's again, like, don't give him a half a kg of curd a day, but if you want to give your dog a little bit of curd with their food some every now and then, there's no issue. And there are some probiotics, but typically they don't survive in the dog's stomach because the dog's stomach is so hostile. It's better to feed prebiotics to keep the actual bacteria that are already there thriving. But curd is not the worst, or yogurt. Vaccinations, well, it's a highly debated topic, and as always with anything medical or whatever, I cannot just like this give you a yes or no for everything. I can here just speak from my personal experience, and all of that. I think, first of all, scientifically, it's proven that the rabies vaccination lasts between 10 and 15 years. So if you ask me, do I vaccinate my dogs every year against rabies? No, absolutely 100% not. If you can, which is really stressful in India, is do the titer test, but that's super pricey and annoying to do. So yeah, what I've been doing is I have done the titer test like once after 3.5 years. Until then, all I did was get the first vaccinations, and then I watch my dogs being healthy, and I trust them, and I keep researching and educating myself. And also with, yeah, just be careful with all the medications and vaccinations and deworming and anti-tick, and just how many medications does one have to take to be a functioning organism, you know? Also, last thing, if anybody is getting a puppy home, please do not keep them inside until they're vaccinated. Please do not keep your dogs away from danger. That is not working out. That will make them sick in the long run, because if you have a tiny little organism like a little puppy, I mean, ideally, hopefully, you would only get them at like 10 weeks, 12 weeks old if they are from a breeder, and if they're like mine, all rescues, then you can't choose. But if you do get a breed puppy home, even if they're precious and they have to stay inside, they don't have to stay inside. The immune system will never get to develop if you keep your dog inside until the first vaccination. If you do that, then they will get sick at every corner, every turn, because as a baby, they're supposed to build their immunity. Keeping them inside will keep them weak. And it's very important to me that people understand you have to take your dogs out early. You have to make them strong. If your veterinarians are amazing and like God-given, but then also don't forget that you go to a doctor for medication. You don't go to a doctor for some advice on how to do better. You know, you wouldn't go to your own doctor if you have a headache and immediately get antibiotics. You would say, I need some cold water. I hadn't had enough water today. So do the same for your dog. For parvo and distemper. Well, no. First rounds of vaccinations, 100%. You have the first round of vaccinations, rabies, all of them, especially in India, yes. But people keep their dogs inside until they're 4 or 5 months old. And by then, you already compromised immunity massively. So if you get your dog, get the first round of shots, everything that the vet says, but then also take them out. Do not keep them inside until they're a certain age, until they're a certain couple of months. Just like with food, don't keep them away from real food for until they're 6 months old or something. You know, whatever you do in the beginning will build them up for their later life, basically. So whatever you try early is probably going to be easier later than if you just say, okay, I'll wait. But I'm not saying that this tempo parvo vaccination is wrong. That's good. I've had way too many little streeties die with those. Um, Definitely get those vaccinations, but just don't get them more and more. I think there's one more question coming, or one more remark. So raw bananas are great, yes. Again, India has much better stuff than the West. Also for the meat quality in India, I think is much better than in the West. Anyway, raw bananas. So look, the thing with fruit and vegetables is that dogs opposing to herbivores, or, like if you take a proper herbivore, like a cow, that will, you see like a 650 kg cow or 350 kg cow, and that only eats little bits of grass, and it sustains itself. Whereas our dogs eat like, 2-3% of their body weight in meat, and they're also not fat. Like, how does that work, right? The thing is, to digest vegetables, you need like a massively complex digestive system, which cows, goats, sheep, so like the herbivores have. They have the fermenting chamber, they throw the food back up, they eat it again, they swallow it again. It takes a long time, and that's how these huge animals can sustain themselves on vegetables. Our dogs, they digest very, very quickly. They don't even chew food. If you see a cow, all the teeth will be flat like this, like ours, and grinding, grinding, grinding. If you see a dog's teeth, they're like this. They can't move them sideways. They're not flat. There's just the break the bone and get it down kind of a jaw, whereas cows or us or horses have the chewy kind of mouth. So we also, anyway, so the dog swallows its food, it goes into the stomach, it gets separated quite aggressively. And for that, raw vegetables will never have the time to give nutrients. You always have to split up plant matter for your dog. That means shredding, mixing, boiling, anything to break down the plant wall. Then your dog can actually get some nutrition out of it. So even for raw banana, if you put it in a mixie and make a smoothie out of it, or you just mash it with the, yeah, well, it might be too hard, but like if you mix it in a mixie, that's always a good idea. And you can also make like cute little, like popsicles. You can put like raw banana and some raw milk and whatever, maybe some fish broth or something, and just mix it, put it in ice cubes, and you have cute little, icicles for your puppy. But yeah, vegetables, fruit, always some sort of mashed or processed, even though you can also grate vegetables and fruit, for example, carrots or apples. If you grate them, they might not give your dog nutrition, but the way that they're shaped, they can scrub the intestines quite well. So there's always things to do. Green papaya, honestly, anything, like no grapes, no brinjal, no onion, but sorry, eggplant, not brinjal. I think it's the Tamil word. um, yeah, just anything fresh, whole, and raw. Try, and I doubt that your dog would eat a green papaya unless it's a very hungry golden retriever. But I would just, grind it, mash it, drizzle it on the food, just mash it, juice it, anything. Basically, however you can get variety, whether you get different ingredients, whether you prep the ingredients differently, whether you, mix and match, whether you get a different brand of something. Always just try to give your dog's body new ways to put stuff together and enable it to do what it wants to do, kind of. So I hope I answered. I hope I didn't just confuse y'all. Is there anything I can clarify or any questions. Maybe I'll also I'll send you guys my email address, and then you can mail me if you have questions, I guess. I'll just send that in the chat here. Right? Julia, Harisha, okay. There you go. And then you can reach out if you feel like something wasn't clear or you don't know. Supplements. I feel like I'm not trying to be like negative, but if you feed a healthy diet, then why supplements, right? Like, to me, there's two kinds of supplements. One supplement is the sort of topical remedy kind of thing. So my dog has ticks. What do? I need a supplement that makes the ticks go away. Or my dog is itching. I need the itch to go away. That's one sort of supplement where I say, okay, so if your dog is itching excessively, then you'll probably need a little bit more omega-3 right now. But on the other hand, shouldn't you always be feeding omega-3? So ultimately, should you not fade out the omega-3 supplement and just have it as a steady part of your diet, kind of? So I have a little bit of a split opinion on this supplement stuff for daily, because I see that, yes, I also read the articles that this is good or that is good, or slippery elm and milk thistle and dandelion and all the mushrooms and all these things. There's so many great things, bee pollen and colostrum and kefir. But I see people going absolutely mad trying to put all of these in each meal. It's not sustainable. Nobody needs to eat like that. If your pet has an issue, then find the ones that help it. If your dog had a surgery or liver issues, milk thistle is fantastic. If you don't want to make fish at home and you can only bring yourself to do it once a week, then go for spirulina, kelp, or the sea alga. Try to get the omega-3s and stuff, the marine nutrients somewhere else. It's just about, like, I guess I'm not being very clear, but I'm just trying to say it's all about getting a basic pool of nutrients there. And if you get them, then you don't need supplements. And then also, most likely, your dog will not get ticks or renal failure or diabetes or parvo or whatever if you're feeding like that already, because dogs, like all animals, are made to last. They only get sick when there is already something wrong, because that's how nature works. So of course, with breeds in India, it's a little bit different because there's often genetic predispositions. But in general, just feed a healthy diet and your animal will sustain itself, just like we are sustaining ourselves, even though we don't eat that many supplements. And I'm assuming, just like me, you also sometimes have a day where you just eat bad stuff. So we're still alive, right? And we're still all hands working, eyes working, everything's okay. So just don't go overboard. Listen to your dog, chill, and think about what kind of nutrients do I want. A little bit omega-6, a little bit omega-3, little chicken, little fish. You know, it's all not that huge of a deal unless you want it to be, in a way. Yeah, I hope I could answer some stuff, and I hope I didn't confuse anybody too much. And then I would say, I mean, of course, it's okay to rely on Royal Canin drools, but it is purely synthetic. It is going to cause issues sooner or later. I mean, imagine you would eat every single day, you eat cornflakes, nothing else. 2 times a day cornflakes. You might be fine, or you eat Pizza Hut twice a day. You'll be fine for a while, but after some time your body will start hurting. It will not be okay. So if you feed Royal Canin and drools, please make sure to rotate the brand, because these synthetic nutrients in these kibble, they can be extremely harmful for the liver. Rotate the brand. Don't always go Royal Canin or drools. Go for go for different brands, try to add fresh food components, try to, and if you see it from a budget perspective, if you go for like some fresh meat or you buy something from Kenya and India, yes, it's pricey, but it will save you so many vet visits. It will save you medication. It will save you surgeries. It's just postponed to later in the life. And I'm I talk to so many people with consultations who are like, I wish I had done that before. If only I had added just some fish. If I had just done that, then I wouldn't be in this situation. And that's why I'm so drastic. I just want you to not be in the situation in 5 years where you're like, oh no, now the joints are giving up. Now the renal system is this. Because then it'll all happen together. And then you're like, damn, now it's too late. So just try to rotate, try to add fresh stuff. Blood tests. Well, how often do you do your own blood tests to check whether you're okay? I think that's the answer then. I do, if you think something's off with your pet, then I would do a blood test. If you think your pet has parasites, do a stool test. If you think anything is not as normal, do a blood test. But firstly, look at your dog's eyes. Are they clear? Are they active? Are they awake? Is the coat nice and shiny? Is the tail wagging as it's supposed to? Is the stool shaped the way that it's supposed to? How many times are they going potty? Are they sleeping? I would always consider the whole dog. And then if I still have an issue, and unless there's pain, if my dog is in pain, then go to the vet. But if the dog is not in pain and you just have a feeling, give it some time, look at the dog, try a little bit. If you see that like there's diarrhea for a week, then you have to go to the vet. But if you can make some changes by yourself and try to get to know your dog better through that, that would probably be more helpful than doing a blood test. You kind of have to get to know your dog because you're not going to have anybody who knows your dog. Neither the vet nor your nutritionist nor anybody is going to know your dog exactly like you do. It's just like your kid. You wouldn't let anybody tell you what to do with your kid. Don't let them tell you what to do with your dogs either. Yeah, people suggest all kinds of things. It's not harmful, but why? So, yeah. I think um, I think we're done, and I will sign out. Dental health. Then just get your dog some chews. Let them chew some bones, some boneless chews, whatever it is. You can let them chew a frozen carrot if you want it. Just let them chew. It makes them happy mentally, and it cleans the teeth. Canine India is just basically what I used to make for my own dogs. Everything is animal meat, like everything is meat protein and insect protein. We also have everything that we have is sourced from farms by ourselves. We go to the farm, we look at the animals, we make sure they're happy, we make sure they're being free range and all of that. And then that's where we buy our meats. For fishing, we have our own boats because I don't like the big ships that mess up the oceans. I don't like that. So we fish ourselves, and everything we make in Chennai ourselves with a lot of love and about 150 street Ds that we take care of and that live in the warehouse. And yeah, Canon India is just all food and all treats and chews and everything and supplements and meals. But it's a little bit, I mean, it's just pure. It's pricier than drools, it's pricier than pedigree, but it's just 100%. Like you don't need a lot of it. You can just add a little bit of fish meal Canon India fish meal to the chicken that you already feed, and you get your balance. But you can always reach out to us. You can write me an email. You can contact us on Instagram or on mail, or you can check the website. You can also book a consultation with me on the website. Anything is possible. But now, I think I'm the one who has to cut this, I think, right? Can't let go. Oh, that's great. Jenny Bastinger. All right, then reach out and I'll come and stalk your puppy in person. También para Erika. Okay, then I'll say Vanakkam Nandri. Have a great evening, you guys, and I hope I'll talk to everybody soon. Bye bye.